Harlequin Works here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1174, entitled The Strongest in the World. So, I was wrong about Loki the first two times, but that third time, boy, I gotta tell you, I was completely right. To a dizzying degree. I'm trying to catch myself now. I was completely correct. And it's immaculate, superb. I'm so happy. We'll reference those videos in this video so you can check them out. But man, oh man, was I right. Also, we'll have to talk about a little bit of controversy I've been seeing because I think people are drastically misinformed. So, the chapter starts off where we left off last time, in which the nightmare creature that resembles Nika has crashed into the getaway boat and fell through the island cloud. So now the children are in danger of plummeting to their deaths because the arrow is going to lead them off of the harbor, and they are still afflicted by the thorn fruit's weird invisible thorns. So we also find out that the arrows generated by Gunko that are physical constructs cannot be harmed by outside influence of any kind for the most part. Perhaps they have a particular weakness, but we haven't seen them yet, as we see that a giant is axing away at the ribbon of arrow and it's doing nothing to stop it, which is quite interesting. Somers is elated that his actions are going to lead to the children's deaths. This man is not related to Nami. If it wasn't clear already, the fact that he's like tongue out over the moon because his actions are going to lead to the innocents perishing is abhorrent, completely abhorrent. So yeah, the Holy Knights are not being saved by the narrative in any stretch of the imagination here. However, that leads to Oimon trying to save his granddaughter. However, of course, he is highly damaged by the invisible thorns, which of course puts Somers in stitches. That is when the children of Elbaf start to contemplate if their wrongdoings in the past have led them to this sorry state. And we get a lot of little flashbacks of the various children reflecting on their misdeeds, just being kids. But the interesting thing we see is Cullen talking to his mother Ripley and showing her the toy that he won in a duel. The toy looks like Emmett, which I find very interesting, because why does it look like Emmett? This is the second time this has happened, because during the whole Wapple cover story, he just made a robot from scrap that looked like a toy version of Emmett as well, except it had a Trojan helmet type deal going on. It didn't have the Elbafian horns that this one has. So that's a little interesting. I wonder how widespread is the image of Emmett actually? Something to think about. But yeah, the various children are just reflecting about their misdoings and how they've treated their parents in the past. But that is when Cullen's about to fall off the edge, Ripley comes to his rescue and embraces him, taking the pain from the thorns, and declares her resolve that she will die with her son. This is what One Piece is about. This is good writing. I enjoy this a lot. The dedication of a parent is something quite beautiful. I like this. This is good. Ripley is followed by Ranya's father, of whom was chopping away at the arrows a little while ago. And Ranya was the very positive baby that we saw a little while ago in the arc. So she is saved by her dad, and the various parents rescue their children. And we find out that Johanna is an orphan. I believe that was said before, and I just forgot. But Miss Ange has actually been taking care of her, so she is her adoptive mother. Don't think we knew that, so that's cool. And Johanna is the one I always find kind of interesting because she has very prominent black horn, which we don't really see that much in Elbaf other than the usual suspects like Loki and Harold. So yeah, she sticks out quite interestingly, and it's nice that she is being looked after as well, and there's someone there to rescue her. But that is when the man, the myth, the legend, Road, comes out of nowhere and saves his little brother Bjorn from falling off the edge. The fact that we started the arc off with him being a terrible pervert and a nerd, only for him to come out like this, is a complete 180. Saving his little brother Bjorn from certain disaster, showing that he does have love and compassion in his heart, and he's just a goober. And it's funny too that his little brother teased him for being a nerd in the past and didn't want him to come around to school. Which, I mean, valid, because yuck, his toy country is kind of gross. So yeah, complete 180 of this character, and supposedly all the parents and children fall to their deaths. However, as Summers is giving out the ugliest laughing faces I have seen in this series, this man is terribly evil. Good lord. The parents and children are saved by this big black mass and a smaller white mass sitting atop it. The smaller white mass is Luffy, as he has stretched out to save all the parents and children with something called Gum Gum Rice Cracker Belly. However, it appears that the effects of the thorn fruit are still in effect, and they are pricking him as they have fell on top of him. That is when the black mass says, "Hey you, as soon as we land, I want you to hop off my back, you hear? I don't want you meddling in my fight." And someone says, "Did he say back?" That's when Luffy turns and says, "You guys just came falling down on us out of nowhere. Good thing we were passing by." And the black mass replies, "I didn't sign off on this. I'm a great destroyer. I'm not responsible for anybody's safety. Now let's move." But as the black mass says this, it starts to snow. Summers notes this, confused by the snow. And someone else remarks that it is also thundering. The nightmare creatures start to wig out as the land of Elbaf starts to dance, affected by some sort of noise. We flash to Jarl and his guards, and they say, "What is that beat?" All of Elbaf is shaking, and Jarl recites, "On a curious day, when thunder and snow both flurry, a giant beast shall appear to blot out the skies. The drums of liberation will boom out." That's when the Holy Knights start freaking out, as we see a giant black dragon being ridden upon by Ragnar and a giant Monkey D. Luffy in Gear 5th. And it says, "And the sun deity will rise." My goodness. Of course, this giant black dragon is Loki. And we know that he's a dragon and not a wyvern or anything weird like that, because we see his forelegs as he is galloping, and these two black masses on either side of his body, which are wings. Luffy also remarks, "Look how big you got." Now this is going to be funny. And Ragnar just squeaks in delight. So, a while ago, I had said every time that we see a traditional Western dragon in One Piece, they always appear with their tongues out. We see this with dragon number 13, and we saw this with the Nidhogg nightmare creature on Elbaf. And as we see, with Loki now fully transformed into what I assume is the Nidhogg, his tongue is hanging out of his mouth, as it was when we first were introduced to him in Elbaf at the start of the arc. I made a whole video about that, about dragon tongues specifically, and it came true. Now, he is a mythical Zoan, no doubt, because he is causing it to snow and thunder. This is quite odd to me, because you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Ace in the exact opposite way, because when Ace came to Drum way back in the day, he stopped it from snowing because of the powers of his flame fruit, which is a Logia type Doe fruit. So this is the exact opposite of that. Now I'm wondering, what actually caused the cryokinesis a chapter back, or 2 chapters back, I should say? Was it Loki or was it Ragnar? I wonder if that's actually the rub of the situation between the two. Now, if they're both mythical Zoans, which they might be, I think they are, I think one's power just amplifies the other, but one is perfectly functional on their own, obviously. That would make sense, because I know Nidhogg translates into Thunder Dragon, so him having electrical abilities makes sense. And it's pretty unique, because if he does end up joining the crew, only Nami has electrical abilities on the crew through Zeus. So yeah, he pretty much is standing alone here. Now, the snowfall is interesting because snow and ice are separate things in One Piece because, of course, we have a snow fruit, which Monet has, and of course, we have a ice fruit, of which Kuzan has. So causing snow is a bit different, but also we know either Ragnar or Loki himself can cause instant cryokinesis, as we saw him freeze the Dragar instantly. So either one of them has that ability. But again, ice powers are not that popular in One Piece. There are only a handful of people who have ice powers. And we've talked about that in the past too, I believe in another chapter review. So this is amazing. But I do think that is the power relationship between the Nidhogg, presumably, and Ragnar here. Most likely the user of the Rad Tasker fruit. I think they have the same abilities roughly. It's just that one amplifies the other. That's what I'm thinking. But bruh, I've been talking about this for ages. And yes, before we even go any further, Loki is, without a shadow of a doubt, the first real dragon in One Piece. We made a video about that too. He's the first real dragon with no caveats, no exceptions. From what we see in chapter 1174, he is the real deal. Now, the reason why he's so big is also an interesting conversation because I think just because he's the one who ate the fruit is the reason why he's so big, because he was already an ancient giant. So you add the size of the Nidhogg, of which I assume is around the size of the nightmare creature, of which we see. I think the Nidhogg is probably around that size if a normal person were to eat the fruit. However, since an ancient giant ate the fruit, we get the biggest dragon possible. Now, with that being said, is he Kaido? Absolutely not. Kaido's not a dragon. Kaido is a fish. Momonosuke is a fish. And in terms of draconic terminology, neither of them are dragons either. Even though the fruit is called the fish fruit model Azure Dragon, they aren't dragons. They're both drakes. Killingham is a drake. King is a wyvern. Queen is a drake. Ex-Drake is a drake. OT is a drake. Page 1 is a drake. All the dragon fruits, famously so far, and the fish fruit, have turned their users into either drakes or wyverns. We have not seen a true blue dragon fruit until Loki right now, which I thought would be the case. Now, the other dragon that could exist in the series that's just a normal animal, from what we're seeing with the lightning and the snow, Loki's a mythical dragon. If you're talking about a normal dragon, I'm willing to bet that Monkey D. Dragon has a normal dragon fruit. So he most likely is the version of the dragons that we see on Punk Hazard, or how they were back when they were thriving and alive and not revived by Vegapunk, because we do get a glimpse of that in Monsters. And we know now, thanks to the Netflix special and Ryuma just being in the series, that Monsters is canonical to One Piece. So, with that being said, I'm so happy that I changed my tune before this all came out and made all those videos about Loki being a dragon, because I was absolutely correct. Now, we'll just have to see what happens now and what his fruit's actually called. I'm still thinking it's going to be the dragon fruit mythical model Nidhogg. And we need to see too how the dragon is treated in lore. But based on y'all spinning us that yarn about it being a mythical creature that'll block out the skies, I could believe that this is a deity Zoan, like how Luffy's a deity Zoan and like how Yamato's a deity Zoan. I could see that. Now, what level of deity the Nidhogg is, I am not sure. We don't know. But based on him not having a Hagoromo, from the looks of it, we know that he hasn't awakened yet. But when he does awaken, I'm willing to bet he'll probably get a white Hagoromo, because he's deified in some regard. Ratataskor, probably not. Or, excuse me, Ragnar, probably not. But the Nidhogg, most definitely so. It has to be some sort of deity. We just have to wait and see what level of deity it is. Is it as high as Luffy? from what Jarl is talking about? Probably so, because I don't think it's a local deity like Yamato, nor do I think it's a lesser divine beast like Killingham, who has the dragon fruit mythical model Kirin. And again, he is a drake, not a dragon. Also, based on the dragon fruit family already having flying established through King, this doesn't affect what I said about flying fruits in that one video. I'll link that here too. But with that being said, we are on break next week, which is a bummer. But man, this was a chapter. If you're liking the video so far, please consider giving me a like. And if you want to enjoy more of my content, because I've been on a roll lately, hit that subscribe button, followed by that bell so you never miss a Polyp Works video. On top of that, could you please hit the hype button, because it does help. With that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polyp Works.